All right, I am going to try to quickly explain embedded channels to you. So, embedded channels are very powerful. It's basically like under the hood stuff in Nuke that live up here. You can usually see them here in your viewer in this little drop down. So, the ones we've become very familiar with are like RGB and alpha. RGB is just always going to be your image, it's your picture, it's whatever you're looking at. These are all RGB, it's color values. Alpha is if you hit A in the viewer, this image doesn't have it, it's just an MP4. But it would be white if something is solid and black if something's completely not visible. So that's how you get to it with A, but that's essentially the same thing as flipping like this in these channels. But you can actually have a whole bunch of other channels down here. You can have whatever channels you want. And in this case, I'm going to show you how to make your own masks. So just like what you would for if you were doing like the eye comp. So I'm going to zoom in on this girl's eye. And we're going to see. First, we need to make some masks. So super fast, I am going to make some masks that I need. So if in the case of doing an eye, I would want to make a mask and take a little bit of time doing it, but I'd want to make a mask for the eye itself, like the entire eye, everything that's in the eyeball. So I would have that. I'd probably go call it like eye all. Not Aya. Eye all. That's just a little note, tooltip node so I can, or tool node so I can see what it is called. I would want to make another one. That would be that circle in the center of the eye. So just basically like not like the entire colored part of the eye, the not white stuff. So remember, if I hold this down over here, hold down my left mouse button, I can get an ellipse if I want, which I think is usually a little easier for doing stuff like this on eyes in particular. But if I hit ellipse, if I come over here, if I hold down control and go to the dead center of the eye and click, the circle will kind of start emanating out from that point that I just clicked on. So as long as you hold down control, if you let go of control, it'll do kind of like from out from the corner of where you did it. But if you hit from the center, it'll do that. So if you want it to be a perfect circle, you can also hold down shift at the same time. Otherwise, it'll let you do what you need to with it. But I like the little 4 points on there. I find they work really, really well. So kind of click that in there. Nudge these into place. They don't have to be perfect. Eyes are really nice in that you want to get accurate with them, but they don't need to be that accurate because they're pretty blurry. Eyes are usually fairly blurry in your eye socket. So you see like pretty soft in there. Okay, so this would be my, I'm going to call this like colored eye part. Because it is. It's everything that's not white. And then I do one more. And this time I'm just going to do your pupil. That's just the jet black part in the center of your eye that you actually see through. That's actually probably, here, I'll move it down a little bit. All right, so I'm going to call that good. So we're going to say, and I'm just going to do this one frame. I'll call that what it is. It's pupil. So with these 3 nodes, we can actually make other nodes. So if you think about it, in reality, I would probably want a node of just the eye white, just this white part, and one of just the iris, just this blue-greeny kind of part right here. So that's easy enough to do because I actually already have all the parts that I need. I have this, and I have this. So I can combine these. They can be their own masks, but I can combine them to make new masks. So something like this, pretty easily, I could take this one, and if I do a merge, set to from, I can take this little circle in the middle away from the rest of this big shape and make kind of a donut. So now this, I've essentially really quick and easy made just the blue-green part. I made a new mask. So from this and this, I was able to make this. So now I still have both of these, but I also have this one. So in the same way, I can take this same node, because I already have it set up the way I want it to. I don't even have to open it if I do it like this. I can take the entire eye, and I want to get just the eye white part. So I could take everything that's not white, which is the colored eye part, away from that. So if I do that, now I just have my eye white. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So now I have 5 mats that I've made from 3. So the way that I can embed these, because right now if I want to use these, say if I want to make them a funny color, I can do that, but I have to use, ignore the rest of my script. I have to use the little mask handle on the side here, which is fine, but it's a lot of hooking things up and it can be messy. So let's say I want to do, here I'm going to do the iris. Let's say I want to make the iris a fun color. Let's say I want to make it kind of red, and then I might go in the multiply and make it brighter, and I'll make that brighter stuff more like purpley blue. Okay, so that's weird looking, but let's say we like that. And what's kind of neat with masks too, since you're doing these as masks, you can then manipulate each and every one of these if you'd like. So something like this whole colored eye part here, actually probably all of these, I can add like a blur. So if I add blur, you can see it starts to get softer out there. So I can do stuff like that. So I'm just even going to try and copy that to like these. So you can see that actually kind of softens that out. So I can do that, and suddenly like that makes it a whole lot more natural looking. So I can do stuff like that to my nodes, and I can dial those in. I can change those. I can do whatever I want. Just like how I cut these out with the merges, I could do all that stuff, and it's just kind of living off where these masks are being created. So I can still have my actual stuff be okay over here. But if I don't want to hook this in with a mask like this, I can actually put this in this stream here, so I never even have to use this little handle. So the way I would do that is with a copy node, which is the hotkey K. Don't know why it's K, but we've used these before, but they're pretty straightforward. So you would hook it in to the thing that you are trying to copy to something else. So something you're copying to something else. In this case, I want to copy, like in this case, this mask to this picture. So I already know my A and my B. This is going over to this. Hook it in. But I don't want this to be the alpha. I actually just want to make it a mask. So the easy way to deal with that is, and you get, I had a flare in this comp, so it's showing a bunch of stuff that actually isn't going to be in your shots. But no matter what, if you click this little thing, think of this like, this is everything for A. This is everything for B. And we already know A is the mask, B is our picture. So if we go down into our picture and basically say where we want to put it, what we want to call it, we want to make a new mask. So I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of the line, and there's a little italicized word new. So all shots should have this. Anytime you click this, no matter how many things you have in there, the last thing should be new. So the only thing different here is every time we've done anything with a mask, we've called it a mask. The interchangeable term for mask that Nuke actually makes you use to do this way is matte, M-A-T-T-E. A matte is the exact same thing as a mask. So a little different terminology, but just know that for this, to do this way, you have to call this matte. So M-A-T-T-E dot whatever you want it to be. So in this case, it's going to be I all, or whatever you want to call it. Say okay. That's going to ask you the first time, do you want to make this layer? You're going to say yep, and it made your layer. It doesn't really give you any validation or anything like that. You can actually check it if you want by clicking and viewing. If you come to the second drop down, you should see matte.iall. If you go to the alpha of that, you'll see your mask. So it works really, really well for stuff like this. But now we can kind of just duplicate that and do it to our other things that we created. So like this was our eye whites. We can now add that. So we go up to the end of the line and say new, matte, dot, eye whites, or the actual, like, you know, sciencey term is sclera. So sclera. We can do it again. Kind of getting the gist here. And actually, I just realized I didn't account for my blur on here. So I'm going to change that one lower. Because on this one, I would want to hook this down in here. Because this is just my big circle. Actually, I probably don't need one for the big circle. Yeah, I really shouldn't. There's really not a case where you would want just that instead of this. So I'll do my iris. That'll be matte.iris. It is a pain. You have to type in matte every time. But I'll show you what that's going to look like here in a sec. And then my last one is going to be this little guy on the end, and it's just that little pupil. And if you want, you can hold down Control, make the little dot nodes, and straighten everything out. So this is going to be matte dot pupil. So now I have essentially made all of these masks. And the way I can see that firsthand is if I come over here. Remember, this was my grade that has nothing assigned to it. If I go into here and instead of using this mask handle, the mask handle down here is always going to show this stuff when I hook into it. So like if I go back and hook into that mask that we wanted, like right here, it shows up in here as RGBA because it's seeing the alpha of this. But instead, I can click this little drop down and all those masks that we made are now here and they're available. So I can say iris and it does the exact same thing as if I pulled that mask handle, which the mask handle disappears when a mask is hooked in here that's embedded like this, because you can see it says matte.iris in here, mask is turned on, and it shows it on here. It's saying the RGB is being masked by matte.iris. So it is now working embedded. You don't need to ever hook anything in. You can just basically keep pulling from the things that you have in your masks here. So it's really, really kind of cool. One other thing you can do with these when you use embedded masks, or really any mask, but I just realized I don't think I've said this in a video yet, is if you hit the invert button. So that's pretty straightforward what it does. It inverts the mask. It'll basically do the thing to everything but what's in that mask. So in this case, the mask is that donut iris here. The little squiggly line means everything but that thing. But for our purposes here, using embedded masks lets us have control to do whatever we want to our different eye parts here. But now they're all embedded. I don't ever have to hook anything up. I don't ever have to go anywhere. Everything is following me down the line. And because I know one question a lot of people had was, does this order matter? And the answer is not at all. This could be, I could break this off and put this like this. It's doing the exact same thing in this case. This is messier, so I don't like that, but that is the gist there. It doesn't matter how you hook these copies in, you just gotta, what order they go in. They just have to get hooked in. But once you have these things copied in here, think of it like a river. You put a boat on the top of the river here, the boat's like flowing down the river, trash is flowing, everything is flowing down the river. You add another boat into the river, that's gonna keep floating down the river with it. So now it's these two things floating down the river. And then these keep moving until this next boat comes on, and now all three of these keep floating out. So it just, you kind of, this is now turning into this, is now turning into this, this.